Captain Sarah Chun stepped onto the scorching tarmac at Nellis Air Force Base, her flight bag cutting into her shoulder as desert heat shimmered off the concrete. The legendary Thunderbolt Squadron hangar loomed ahead, home to the Air Force's elite 1%, where only the most exceptional pilots earned their wings among F-16 Fighting Falcons that ruled the skies. Major Harrison emerged from the hangar's shadow, his weathered face showing neither welcome nor warmth. The squadron leader's reputation preceded him. 15 years flying combat missions, 6 confirmed kills, and 0 tolerance for weakness. His piercing gaze swept over Chin's compact frame and fresh-pressed flight suit before settling on her name tape with obvious skepticism. The 3 pilots flanking Harrison represented Thunderbolt's inner circle. Rodriguez stood with arms crossed, his muscular build and cocky grin broadcasting supreme confidence in his abilities. Tank Williams earned his call sign through aggressive flying and an even more aggressive personality, while Ace Morrison's sharp features reflected the calculated precision that made him the squadron's top pilot. Their unified smirks suggested Chin's arrival provided unexpected entertainment. Harrison's voice cut through the desert air like a blade. "Chin, welcome to Thunderbolt Squadron. Hope you're ready for the big leagues." His pause carried weight as he gestured toward the flight line. "Your aircraft is 870,234. Tail number visible from here. She's been waiting for a pilot." Chun followed his pointing finger to a solitary F-16 parked in the most distant spot on the flight line. Even from 200 yards, the aircraft's age showed clearly through faded paint, weathered panels, and the unmistakable patina that marked decades of service. While newer Fighting Falcons gleamed with fresh coatings and modern upgrades, 870,234 bore the scars of extensive use. Rodriguez chuckled and nudged Williams with his elbow. "Look at that museum piece. Thing's older than my first girlfriend and twice as worn out." Williams grinned widely, his amusement infectious as Morrison joined their laughter. The 3 men exchanged knowing glances that spoke of shared understanding about squadron hierarchy and Chin's obvious place at the bottom. Tank Williams stepped forward with exaggerated concern painted across his features. "Ma'am, you sure that flying coffin will make it off the runway? Might want to file a flight plan to the nearest boneyard instead of the training range." His comment drew louder laughter from Rodriguez and Morrison, their voices echoing off the hangar walls. Chin absorbed their mockery without reaction, her dark eyes studying the distant aircraft with professional interest. The F-16's basic design remained timeless despite its obvious age, and she noticed the careful positioning that kept it away from the squadron's newer models. Something about the deliberate isolation struck her as intentional rather than coincidental. Harrison continued his introduction with barely concealed satisfaction. "That bird's been through more pilots than I can count. None of them lasted long enough to make her purr like she should. Maybe you'll have better luck, though I wouldn't bet money on it." His tone suggested he expected her to follow the pattern of previous failures. Morrison's sharp voice cut through the tension with calculated precision. "Sir, with respect, shouldn't new pilots start on aircraft that actually have a chance of completing missions? That relic belongs in the Smithsonian, not on our flight line." His observation drew approving nods from Rodriguez and Williams, their agreement obvious and unanimous. The squadron leader's smile grew wider as he savored Morrison's comment. "Ace makes a fair point, but every pilot earns their place here through performance, not preferences. Chun gets what she gets until she proves she deserves better." His words established the squadron's pecking order with crystalline clarity. Chun shouldered her flight bag more securely and stepped toward the flight line. "Permission to inspect my aircraft, sir." Her request carried no trace of complaint or disappointment, only professional focus that seemed to surprise the watching pilots. Their expressions shifted slightly as they processed her composed reaction. Harrison waved dismissively toward the distant F-16. "Go ahead, Captain. Your hangar space is in Building 7, last bay on the right. Don't expect miracles from the maintenance crew assigned there. They match the aircraft in terms of priority." His directions carried an edge of finality that marked the conversation's end. As Chen walked toward 870234, the pilot's voices followed her across the tarmac. Rodriguez spoke loudly enough for her to hear clearly. $20 says she washes out before her first solo mission. That bucket of bolts will humble her real quick. Williams immediately accepted the wager, while Morrison suggested raising the stakes. Chun reached her assigned aircraft and began a careful exterior inspection, her trained eye cataloging every detail from nose to tail. The F-16 skin showed extensive wear patterns, but the control surfaces moved freely and the landing gear appeared solid. Maintenance logs tucked into the cockpit revealed meticulous care despite obvious resource limitations. The betting continued behind her as more squadron members gathered to observe the new pilot's introduction to their hierarchy. Someone suggested a pool for predicting her departure date, while others speculated about her background and qualifications. Their conversation treated her presence as temporary entertainment rather than permanent addition. Chun completed her inspection and stood quietly beside the aircraft's wing, her hand resting on the time-worn metal. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she sensed this particular F-16 held secrets that went far deeper than its weathered exterior suggested. The squadron's eagerness to dismiss both pilot and aircraft only strengthened her determination to prove their assumptions wrong. Dawn painted the Nevada desert in shades of orange and gold as Chun arrived for her first squadron briefing. The ready room buzzed with pre-flight energy, while pilots reviewed weather reports and mission parameters on wall-mounted displays. Harrison stood at the podium with his usual commanding presence, flight plan materials spread across the briefing table. The squadron leader's voice carried authority that demanded immediate attention. Today's exercise focuses on basic formation, flying, and communication protocols. Four-ship diamond formation, climbing to 25,000 feet for tactical maneuvering practice. His gaze swept across the assembled pilots before settling on Chun with particular emphasis. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair with obvious confidence radiating from his posture. Tank Williams cleaned his sunglasses methodically while Morrison studied navigation charts with characteristic precision. Their comfortable familiarity with routine procedures contrasted sharply with Chen's focused attention to every detail Harrison presented. Harrison pointed directly at Chun with unmistakable intent. "Chun, you'll fly wing position on Rodriguez's right side. Try to keep up with the formation and follow radio procedures exactly as briefed." His tone suggested serious doubt about her ability to execute even basic maneuvers successfully. The briefing concluded with standard safety reminders and emergency protocols before pilots dispersed toward the flight line. Chun gathered her materials and headed for the locker room to don her flight gear, aware of whispered conversations that followed her movements. The other pilot's confidence created an atmosphere of exclusion that marked her as an outsider. Pre-flight inspection revealed the first complication when Chun discovered hydraulic fluid pool beneath 870,234's landing gear. The amber liquid formed a growing stain on the concrete, indicating a leak somewhere in the aircraft's control systems. Ground crew Chief Martinez emerged from the maintenance shack with obvious reluctance to address the problem. Martinez examined the leak with practiced efficiency, but his expression grew increasingly concerned. "Captain, this is going to take at least 20 minutes to isolate and repair. The hydraulic fitting needs complete replacement before you can safely launch." His assessment carried the weight of experienced maintenance knowledge that couldn't be ignored. Chen watched as the other three F-16s completed their pre-flight checks and taxied toward the runway. Rodriguez's voice crackled through her headset with barely concealed impatience. "Phoenix, what's your status? We're ready to launch and daylight's burning." His transmission broadcast to the entire formation, making her delay publicly visible. Harrison's voice followed immediately with sharp disapproval. "Chen, you're already behind schedule. This is exactly the kind of preparation failure that separates professional pilots from amateurs." His criticism stung more because every pilot on the frequency could hear his assessment of her readiness. 23 minutes later, Chen finally received clearance to taxi as Martinez completed the hydraulic system repair. The other aircraft had already launched and established their formation at altitude, leaving her to play catch-up from the moment she left the ground. Her delayed takeoff immediately put her at a tactical disadvantage. Chen pushed 870,234's throttle forward and climbed steeply toward the designated altitude, but the aircraft's older engines struggled to match the power output of the squadron's newer F-16S. The gap between her position and the formation widened steadily despite her best efforts to close the distance through aggressive climbing techniques. Rodriguez's voice filled the radio frequency with mounting frustration. "Phoenix, you're falling further behind. Pick up the pace, or we'll have to abort the exercise." His complaint drew murmurs of agreement from Williams and Morrison, their collective impatience creating additional pressure that compounded her mechanical disadvantages. The aircraft's outdated avionics system chose that moment to malfunction, causing navigation displays to flicker and freeze intermittently. Chen found herself flying partial panel while trying to maintain formation position, a challenge that would test even experienced pilots under normal circumstances. The combination of mechanical problems created a cascading series of difficulties. Morrison's sharp observation cut through the radio chatter with clinical precision. "Lead, Phoenix's navigation appears compromised. She's drifting off course and can't seem to correct properly." His assessment accurately described her situation while simultaneously broadcasting her struggles to the entire flight. Chen fought to manually calculate intercept headings while monitoring her engine parameters and hydraulic pressure readings. The aircraft responded sluggishly to control inputs, suggesting additional system problems that hadn't manifested during ground testing. Each complication multiplied the challenge of rejoining the formation successfully. Tank Williams added his commentary with characteristic bluntness. "That museum piece is showing its age. Maybe we should have left it in the hangar where it belongs." His comment drew chuckles from Rodriguez and Morrison, their amusement clearly audible through the radio static. A master caution light illuminated Chen's instrument panel as hydraulic pressure dropped below acceptable parameters. The same system Martinez had repaired was failing again, this time at altitude, where emergency procedures became critical. Chen immediately declared her emergency status and began executing prescribed safety protocols. Harrison's voice crackled with authoritative command as he took control of the situation. "Phoenix, return to base immediately. Do not attempt to rejoin formation with compromised hydraulics." His order carried the weight of safety regulations that superseded training objectives, but also marked her flight as a complete failure. Chen executed a careful descent and approach, nursing the wounded aircraft back to Nellis while the formation continued their exercise without her. Landing required delicate control inputs to compensate for reduced hydraulic assistance, but she managed a smooth touchdown despite the mechanical challenges that had plagued her flight. The post-flight debrief convened in the ready room 30 minutes after the formation's return. Harrison stood before a whiteboard covered with flight path diagrams and performance metrics that painted Chen's sortie in unflattering terms. The assembled pilots waited with obvious anticipation for his assessment. Harrison's analysis cut deeply into Chen's confidence with surgical precision. Today's exercise highlighted several critical deficiencies in preparation, aircraft familiarity, and formation discipline. Phoenix's delayed launch disrupted the entire flight schedule, and her subsequent mechanical problems forced mission modification. His words carried the weight of official criticism that would enter her training record. Rodriguez nodded sagely, while Williams and Morrison exchanged meaningful glances that spoke of shared understanding about Chen's inadequate performance. Their unified disapproval created an atmosphere of professional judgment that left no room for excuses or explanations about circumstances beyond her control. The squadron leader continued his critique with methodical thoroughness. "Formation flying requires absolute reliability, from both pilot and aircraft. When either element fails, the entire mission suffers accordingly. His statement implied that Chen's problems stemmed from personal shortcomings rather than mechanical failures outside her control. Chen accepted the criticism without protest, recognizing that defending herself would only compound the squadron's perception of her as an excuse maker rather than a problem solver. The mechanical failures were factual, but the squadron's culture clearly emphasized results over circumstances. As the debrief concluded, Chief Martinez approached Chen privately with information that shed new light on her aircraft problems. "Captain, that hydraulic system hasn't received proper maintenance funding in 18 months. The parts we use today were salvaged from other aircraft because procurement requests keep getting denied." His revelation suggested systematic neglect rather than random mechanical failure. Evening shadows stretched across Nellis as Chun made her way to the squadron records room, determined to understand why aircraft 870234 had been assigned to her. The administrative building's fluorescent lights hummed overhead while she navigated corridors lined with decades of squadron photographs and achievement plaques that told stories of aerial excellence. The records room occupied a forgotten corner of the building, its metal shelves packed with maintenance logs, pilot records, and aircraft histories dating back to the squadron's formation. Dust motes danced in the pale light as Chun located the filing section dedicated to individual aircraft documentation. Aircraft 870,234's folder proved surprisingly thick compared to newer F-16s, whose records consisted mainly of routine maintenance entries. Chun spread the documents across a small table and began methodically reviewing the aircraft's service history, searching for clues about its current neglected status within the squadron's hierarchy. The first entries revealed the aircraft's original assignment to a pilot designated only as Ghost in the early records. Subsequent pages detailed deployment after deployment to combat zones throughout the Middle East, with mission counts that far exceeded typical fighter aircraft utilization rates. Each deployment showed increasing mission totals that spoke of exceptional operational tempo. Chun discovered the pilot's full identity buried in a commendation letter dated 3 years earlier. Colonel Marcus Patterson, callsign Ghost, had flown aircraft 870,234 exclusively through 73 combat missions spanning Iraq and Afghanistan operations. The letter detailed his specific request to retain the same aircraft for all deployments despite offers of newer equipment. Further research revealed Patterson's extraordinary combat record achieved while flying this exact F-16. 15 confirmed air-to-air kills stood recorded in official documents, along with dozens of successful ground attack missions that supported advancing coalition forces. The aircraft had become Patterson's personal weapon, fine-tuned to his flying style and tactical preferences. Chun found incident reports documenting the aircraft's survival through multiple combat emergencies that would have destroyed lesser machines. Surface-to-air missile fragments had peppered the fuselage during one mission, yet Patterson brought the fighter home safely. Bird strikes, hydraulic failures, and electrical malfunctions appeared regularly in the records, but the aircraft continued flying. A maintenance note caught her attention with its unusual detail about Patterson's personal involvement in aircraft modifications. The colonel had worked directly with ground crews to implement upgrades and improvements that enhanced performance beyond standard specifications. His engineering background enabled sophisticated modifications that transformed the basic F-16 into something unique. Sergeant Kim appeared in the doorway with obvious surprise at finding someone researching aircraft records after duty hours. The squadron historian carried additional files under his arm, suggesting he had come specifically to find Chun after learning about her investigation into Patterson's aircraft. Kim's weathered face showed the respect that came from decades of military service and intimate knowledge of squadron history. "Captain, I heard you were asking questions about 870,234. That aircraft has quite a story, though most folks around here seem to have forgotten its significance." His tone carried weight that suggested important information remained undisclosed. Chun gestured toward the scattered documents with growing interest in Patterson's legacy. Sergeant, these records show an incredible combat history, but the aircraft's current condition suggests nobody values that heritage. What happened after Colonel Patterson's service ended? Her question opened the door for Kim to share knowledge that might explain the current situation. Kim settled into a nearby chair and opened his additional files with careful reverence. Ghost Patterson died in a training accident 2 years ago, flying a different aircraft on a routine mission. After his death, Squadron leadership seemed eager to bury his memory along with everything he represented. His explanation carried undertones of disapproval about institutional amnesia. The historian continued with details that painted a clearer picture of deliberate historical suppression. Patterson was old school, believed in pushing equipment to its limits and getting maximum performance from every component. Current leadership prefers newer technology over proven capability, so they've systematically marginalized his aircraft and methods. Chin studied Patterson's personal logbooks that Kim produced from his files, revealing handwritten notes about aircraft performance and tactical innovations. The colonel's observations detailed specific modifications that enhanced maneuverability, weapons accuracy, and survivability beyond manufacturer specifications. His insights represented years of combat experience distilled into practical improvements. Kim pointed to classified stamps on several documents with obvious frustration about bureaucratic secrecy. Patterson's complete flight records remain locked in the vault, but what I can show you proves this aircraft achieved performance levels that embarrassed newer models. Squadron leadership buried that data to justify their preference for expensive upgrades over proven platforms. The maintenance logs revealed Patterson's personal relationship with ground crews who shared his commitment to excellence. He had funded private modifications using his own money, working alongside technicians to implement improvements that the Air Force bureaucracy couldn't approve through normal channels. The aircraft became a test bed for innovations that proved highly effective. Chun discovered references to a special designation that Patterson's aircraft had earned among ground crews and veteran pilots. They had nicknamed the F-16 Lucky Penny for its remarkable survival record and consistent performance under extreme conditions. The affectionate call sign reflected genuine respect for both pilot and machine. Kim's expression grew more serious as he shared information about systematic suppression of Patterson's legacy. After Ghost died, Harrison took over the squadron and immediately reassigned this aircraft to storage status. When you arrived, they pulled it out specifically to humiliate you, expecting the neglected condition to reinforce their narrative about lowered standards. The revelation struck Chun with sudden clarity about her assignment's true purpose. Squadron leadership hadn't randomly selected aircraft 870234 for her use. They had deliberately chosen Patterson's legendary fighter specifically because its neglected condition would support their preconceptions about her capabilities and worthiness. Chun gathered the documents carefully while processing the full scope of what she had discovered. Sergeant, you're telling me this aircraft has capabilities that exceed the squadron's newer F-16S, but leadership has deliberately hidden that information to justify their discrimination? Her question sought confirmation of the conspiracy she was beginning to understand. Kim nodded with grim satisfaction at her comprehension of the situation. Captain, you've inherited not just an aircraft, but a legacy that threatens everything this squadron's current leadership represents. Patterson proved that skill and knowledge matter more than expensive equipment, and they can't allow that truth to surface again. The historian's final revelation carried the weight of institutional corruption that extended far beyond simple aircraft assignments. Those classified records in the vault contained performance data that would revolutionize fighter tactics if properly analyzed. Harrison has kept them buried because they prove his entire philosophy about modern warfare is fundamentally wrong. Chun left the records room with a completely transformed understanding of her situation. Aircraft 87023 4 wasn't the squadron's worst fighter. It was potentially their best, deliberately suppressed to protect the egos and careers of leaders who feared its capabilities. Patterson's ghost had left her more than just an aircraft. He had provided the tools to expose their deception. The weight of Patterson's legacy settled on her shoulders as she walked through the empty corridors toward her quarters. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but now she understood the true stakes involved. This wasn't just about proving her own worth. It was about honoring a fallen hero's memory and revealing truths that powerful people desperately wanted to keep hidden. Chief Martinez approached Chun the following morning with an expression that mixed professional concern with personal frustration. The maintenance chief's weathered hands held a clipboard thick with work orders and requisition forms that told a story of systematic neglect spanning months of deliberate underfunding. Martinez gestured toward aircraft 870,234 with obvious anger about institutional incompetence. "Captain, I need to show you something that's been eating at me since yesterday's hydraulic failure. What happened up there wasn't random mechanical breakdown. It was predictable result of deliberate resource starvation." His voice carried the weight of decades maintaining military aircraft under various conditions. Chun followed him into the hangar, where 870-234 sat, surrounded by diagnostic equipment and partially disassembled components. The aircraft's open panels revealed internal systems that showed signs of improvised repairs and jury-rig solutions that spoke of creative maintenance under impossible constraints. The maintenance chief pointed to hydraulic components with obvious frustration about procurement failures. "See these fittings? They're rated for different pressure specifications than what this aircraft requires. We've been forced to use whatever part supply provides instead of correct components because requisitions keep getting denied." His explanation revealed systematic sabotage disguised as bureaucratic inefficiency. Martinez led her deeper into the aircraft's internal systems, revealing additional evidence of deliberate neglect. "The avionics problems you experienced yesterday stem from disconnected upgrade modules that are already installed but never activated. Someone wants this aircraft to appear obsolete when it actually contains modern capabilities." Chun examined the sophisticated electronics hidden beneath access panels, recognizing advanced systems that exceeded the capabilities of newer squadron aircraft. The contrast between external appearance and internal potential created a deliberate deception designed to mislead casual observers about the fighter's true performance envelope. The maintenance chief's revelation grew more damning as he detailed the scope of institutional sabotage. "Captain, this aircraft's engines are actually low-time, overhauled units with thousands of hours remaining. The power problems you've experienced come from using incorrect fuel additives and deliberately detuned engine management software." Martinez produced classified modification records that documented Patterson's personal funding of advanced upgrades. Go spent his own money installing enhanced ECM suites, upgraded radar systems, and improved flight control computers. These modifications transform a standard F-16 into something that approaches fifth-generation capabilities. Chun studied the technical specifications with growing amazement at the scope of Patterson's innovations. The colonel had essentially created a prototype advanced fighter using proven F-16 airframe combined with cutting-edge avionics and defensive systems. His personal investment represented hundreds of thousands of dollars in improvements. The maintenance chief's anger intensified as he described the leadership's active suppression of the aircraft's capabilities. After Patterson died, Harrison personally ordered us to disconnect these systems and return the aircraft to basic configuration. When I protested, he threatened my career and suggested I might be happier at a different base. Martinez revealed the full extent of the conspiracy with documentation that proved intentional sabotage. They've been using wrong hydraulic fluid specifications, outdated software versions, and incorrect maintenance procedures specifically to create the failures you've experienced. Every problem has been artificially induced to support their narrative. Chun absorbed the implications of systematic deception that extended far beyond simple discrimination. Chief, you're telling me this aircraft could outperform the Squadron's newer F-16S if properly maintained and configured? Her question sought confirmation of what the evidence clearly suggested. The maintenance chief nodded with certainty born from decades of Hansen experience. Captain, with these systems properly activated and maintained, 870234 would embarrass every other fighter on this base. Patterson proved that repeatedly in combat, which is exactly why they want its capabilities buried permanently. Martinez outlined his plan for overnight restoration that would reveal the aircraft's true potential. If you're willing to take the risk, I can restore all systems to Patterson's specifications tonight. But once leadership sees this bird performing as designed, they'll know we've defied their orders to keep it suppressed. Chun considered the implications of openly challenging squadron leadership while weighing the opportunity to honor Patterson's legacy. The maintenance chief's offer represented both vindication and enormous professional risk that could end both their careers if the restoration was discovered prematurely. The decision crystallized as Chun thought about Patterson's sacrifice and the injustice of burying his innovations. Chief, let's restore this aircraft to its full potential. If they want to destroy our careers for revealing the truth, at least we'll go down fighting for something meaningful. Martinez smiled with genuine satisfaction at her commitment to the restoration project. Captain, you remind me of Ghost in ways that go beyond just flying his aircraft. He would have made the same choice, regardless of personal consequences. His comparison carried the weight of professional respect earned through shared dedication to excellence. The maintenance chief began organizing tools and components needed for the comprehensive restoration work. This will take most of the night, but by morning you'll have an aircraft that performs exactly as Patterson intended. Every system will be optimized, every modification activated, every capability restored to operational status. Chun helped Martinez gather classified technical manuals that detailed Patterson's modification procedures. The complexity of the restoration work required precise execution to avoid damaging sensitive components while ensuring all systems integrated properly with existing aircraft architecture. As evening approached, the hangar emptied of routine maintenance personnel, leaving Chun and Martinez alone with 870,234 in boxes of advanced components that would transform the neglected fighter. The restoration represented more than simple mechanical work. It was an act of rebellion against institutional corruption and historical suppression. Martinez began the delicate process of reactivating electronic warfare systems that had been deliberately disabled for months. Captain, these ECM capabilities are classified beyond most pilots' clearance levels. Patterson's combat experience enabled him to obtain and install systems that officially don't exist on standard F-16S. The first engine test revealed dramatic improvement in power output as Martinez corrected fuel mixture ratios and restored proper engine management software. The turbofan's response became crisp and immediate, transforming the aircraft's acceleration characteristics from sluggish to impressive. Chun monitored system displays as each component came online with capabilities that exceeded her expectations. Advanced radar modes activated, defensive systems initialized, and flight control responses sharpened to levels that approached modern fighter aircraft performance standards. Martinez completed the hydraulic system restoration using proper specifications and genuine replacement parts that he had stockpiled against future emergencies. Captain, tomorrow's test flight will reveal whether this old bird still has Patterson's magic, or if we're just fooling ourselves about buried potential. The maintenance chief's final warning carried weight that emphasized the magnitude of their gamble. Once you take this aircraft up with all systems operational, there's no hiding what we've done. Leadership will know immediately that someone has defied their orders to keep Patterson's legacy suppressed. Chun accepted the risk with full understanding of potential consequences while feeling the weight of Patterson's ghost watching their restoration efforts. Tomorrow would bring either vindication or destruction, But at least the truth about aircraft 870,234 would finally emerge from decades of deliberate suppression and institutional deception. Dawn broke over Nellis as Chun approached aircraft 870,234 with anticipation coursing through her veins. The overnight restoration had transformed the fighter's appearance subtly, but she knew the real changes lay hidden within systems that Martinez had carefully reactivated according to Patterson's original specifications. Pre-flight inspection revealed subtle differences that spoke of renewed capability and precision maintenance. Control surfaces moved with fluid responsiveness that had been absent during previous flights, while engine startup produced the crisp, immediate power response that characterized properly tuned turbofan engines. Chin settled into the cockpit and immediately noticed the transformation in avionics displays and system responses. Advanced radar modes appeared on her screens alongside electronic warfare capabilities that exceeded standard F-16 specifications. The aircraft felt alive beneath her hands in ways that suggested Patterson's modifications had restored its fighting spirit. Tower clearance came quickly for her solo proficiency flight, a routine exercise that would allow Chun to evaluate the aircraft's restored performance without interference from squadron politics. She advanced the throttle and felt immediate acceleration that caught her off guard with its authority and smoothness. The takeoff roll demonstrated dramatically improved engine power as 870,234 lifted off after a significantly shorter ground run than previous flights. Chin pulled back on the stick and felt the aircraft respond with precision that transformed her understanding of its capabilities. This was no longer the sluggish, problematic fighter she had struggled with yesterday. Climbing through 10,000 feet, Chin began testing the aircraft's handling characteristics through gentle maneuvers that revealed exceptional responsiveness. The flight controls felt precise and immediate, allowing her to place the aircraft exactly where she intended with minimal effort. Patterson's modifications had created something truly special. Unknown to Chun, Major Harrison monitored her flight from the control tower with growing concern about the aircraft's obviously improved performance. His trained eye recognized superior climb rates and maneuvering capabilities that contradicted everything he had told the squadron about 870,234's limitations. Chin pushed the aircraft into more aggressive maneuvers, discovering turning performance that exceeded newer F-16 specifications by significant margins. The enhanced flight control systems allowed sustained high G turns that would stress standard aircraft, while maintaining rock-steady stability throughout the entire flight envelope. The aircraft's advanced radar systems revealed capabilities that impressed Chun with their sophistication and range. Target acquisition and tracking functions operated with precision that approached modern fighter standards, while electronic countermeasures provided defensive options that most F-16s simply didn't possess. Chun executed a complex aerobatic sequence that would have challenged experienced demonstration pilots, flowing seamlessly from vertical climbs through barrel rolls into knife-edge passes that showcased the aircraft's exceptional handling qualities. Every maneuver felt effortless as the fighter responded to her inputs with mechanical sympathy. Harrison's voice crackled through the radio with barely controlled tension as he observed maneuvers that contradicted his narrative about the aircraft's limitations. Phoenix Tower is observing unusual flight characteristics from your aircraft. Explain your current configuration and performance parameters immediately. Chun smiled as she rolled inverted and pulled through a perfect splits maneuver that demonstrated control authority impossible with standard F-16 systems. Tower, aircraft is responding normally to all control inputs. Performance is within published specifications for this airframe. Her response was technically accurate while avoiding discussion of which specifications applied. The landing approach allowed Chun to demonstrate the enhanced precision that Martinez's restoration had provided. She flew a textbook pattern with airspeeds and altitudes that remained exactly on target throughout the entire sequence, touching down with the gentle precision that marked exceptional pilot aircraft integration. Harrison waited on the ramp as Chun taxied to parking, his expression mixing suspicion with growing anger about unauthorized modifications that he clearly recognized. The squadron leader's body language suggested an approaching confrontation that would determine whether her restoration efforts would continue or face immediate suppression. Chun shut down the aircraft and completed post-flight procedures while savoring the memory of flying Patterson's fighter as he had intended. The aircraft capabilities far exceeded anything she had experienced in standard F-16s, confirming that the Colonel's modifications had created something approaching next-generation performance. Rodriguez, Williams, and Morrison emerged from the squadron building with obvious curiosity about Chen's extended flight and the aircraft's improved performance that they had witnessed from the ground. Their confident dismissal of her capabilities seemed less certain as they observed her satisfied expression and professional demeanor. Harrison approached Chun as she descended from the cockpit with questions that carried threat beneath their surface courtesy. "Captain, tower observations suggest your aircraft performed significantly better than previous flights. Explain what maintenance actions were performed overnight." His inquiry demanded answers that could implicate Martinez in unauthorized restoration work. Chin met his gaze directly while choosing her words carefully to protect the maintenance chief. "Sir, Chief Martinez performed routine maintenance to correct the hydraulic problems identified during yesterday's flight. All work was accomplished according to technical orders and approved procedures." Her response was truthful while avoiding specifics about which procedures had been followed. The squadron leader's suspicion intensified as he recognized evasion in her carefully crafted response. "Captain, that aircraft hasn't performed like that since." He stopped himself before completing the comparison to Patterson's era, revealing his awareness of the fighter's hidden capabilities. Morrison stepped closer with his characteristic analytical precision, focused on the aircraft transformation. "Sir, the climb rate and maneuvering performance we observed definitely exceeded baseline F-16 specifications. Something fundamental has changed about that aircraft's configuration." His observation confirmed that the restoration's effects were visible to experienced pilots. Williams added his perspective with typical bluntness that cut to the heart of the matter. "Major, either Chin's a way better pilot than we thought, or that museum piece just became a serious fighter again. Either way, we might need to reconsider our assumptions." His comment drew approving nods from Rodriguez and Morrison. Harrison's anger finally surfaced as he realized the implications of Chen's successful flight. "Captain, report to my office immediately for debriefing. We need to discuss your aircraft's suddenly improved performance and the maintenance actions that enabled it." His order carried the weight of impending disciplinary action. Chun gathered her flight gear while recognizing that her moment of triumph had triggered the confrontation that Martinez had predicted. The restoration had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but now they faced the consequences of defying squadron leadership's systematic suppression of Patterson's legacy. Rodriguez approached Chun privately as she headed toward the squadron building with an expression that mixed respect with curiosity. "Captain, I don't know what you and Martinez did to that bird, but it flew like Ghost himself was in the cockpit." Harrison's scared, and that makes this very interesting. The squadron's dynamics had shifted fundamentally in the space of one flight. Chen's demonstration of 870,234's true capabilities had shattered the narrative about inferior equipment and questionable pilot skills. Now the real battle would begin as leadership fought to maintain their version of reality against undeniable evidence of their deception. Morrison's challenge came as Chun reached the squadron door, his voice carrying new respect mixed with competitive fire. "Chun, I want a head-to-head comparison flight. My F-16V against your restored Ghost Bird. Let's settle this question about performance once and for all." His proposal represented exactly the kind of direct confrontation that Harrison wanted to avoid. Chun paused at the threshold of what she knew would be a career-defining confrontation with Harrison, but Morrison's challenge offered an opportunity to prove Patterson's innovations publicly. "Ace, I accept your challenge. schedule it through proper channels, and we'll see what this old bird can really do. The gauntlet had been thrown, accepted, and witnessed by the entire squadron. Chin's successful restoration of Patterson's fighter had transformed a routine proficiency flight into the opening move of a battle that would determine whether truth or deception would define Thunderbolt Squadron's future. Chin spent the evening in her quarters studying Patterson's declassified flight manuals with intense focus on tactical approaches that had made him legendary among combat pilots. The colonel's handwritten notes revealed sophisticated maneuvers and energy management techniques that transformed basic fighter tactics into lethal aerial choreography. Patterson's annotations described specific methods for exploiting F-16 characteristics that most pilots never discovered during their careers. His insights into vertical maneuvering, energy conservation, and weapons employment showed deep understanding of aerial combat that came only through extensive experience under fire. The tactical manual contained detailed diagrams of maneuvers that Patterson had developed specifically for aircraft 870,234's enhanced capabilities. His modifications weren't random improvements, but carefully integrated systems designed to support revolutionary fighting techniques that maximize the aircraft's potential. Chun absorbed Patterson's philosophy about aerial combat through pages that revealed his thinking about situational awareness, threat assessment, and decisive action. The colonel believed that superior tactics could overcome technological disadvantages, but when combined with advanced systems, they created overwhelming combat superiority. Meanwhile, Williams and Morrison attempted to access Chin's aircraft under cover of darkness, their flashlights casting suspicious shadows across the flight line as base security conducted routine patrols. The two pilots moved carefully between aircraft, seeking opportunity to inspect or tamper with 870,234's restored systems. Security Sergeant Davis spotted the unauthorized movement and approached with professional suspicion about after-hours flight line activity. "Gentlemen, state your business. This area is restricted during night hours without proper authorization." His challenge carried the authority of base security regulations that applied to all personnel regardless of rank. Williams attempted casual explanation while Morrison shifted nervously behind him. "Sergeant, we're conducting pre-flight inspections for tomorrow's mission. Just being thorough about our preparations." Their story sounded plausible, but failed to explain why they were inspecting Chin's aircraft rather than their own. Davis examined their identification and noted the discrepancy between their claimed mission and current location. "Sirs, your assigned aircraft are in Hangar 2. This is aircraft 870234, assigned to Captain Chun. Explain your specific interest in this particular fighter." Morrison's attempt at authoritative dismissal revealed his discomfort with the security challenge. "Sergeant, we're evaluating squadron assets as part of our duties as senior pilots. Your questions are inappropriate and unnecessary." His tone carried implied threat about challenging pilot authority. The security sergeant remained unmoved by attempts at intimidation while documenting the incident according to base procedures. "Sirs, unauthorized access to assigned aircraft requires written justification and proper supervision. Please return to authorized areas immediately." His professional demeanor indicated serious intent to enforce regulations. Chun discovered the attempted intrusion the following morning when Martinez reported tampered fuel lines and deliberately incorrect tire pressure settings that could have caused catastrophic failure during flight operations. The sabotage attempts proved that squadron members feared her aircraft's capabilities enough to risk criminal charges. Martinez's examination revealed sophisticated knowledge behind the sabotage that suggested pilot involvement rather than random vandalism. "Captain, whoever did this knew exactly which systems to target for maximum danger with minimum detection. This was attempted murder disguised as mechanical failure." The maintenance chief's anger intensified as he detailed the scope of deliberate sabotage. They loosened fuel connections just enough to create in-flight fire hazard, while tire pressure was reduced to cause blowout during landing. Both problems would appear accidental unless carefully examined. Chun found an anonymous note slipped under her quarters door with threatening message that confirmed the squadron's escalating desperation. Withdraw from the challenge or face consequences that will end your career permanently. This is your only warning about the price of embarrassing this squadron. The crude handwriting and generic paper suggested careful planning to avoid identification, but the threat's specificity indicated insider knowledge about her plans and vulnerabilities. Someone within the squadron was coordinating systematic intimidation designed to force her withdrawal from Morrison's challenge. Base Commander Colonel Adams summoned Chun to his office with official summons that carried weight of command authority. His spacious office displayed decades of military service through photographs, awards, and memorabilia that spoke of distinguished career in fighter aviation. Adams studied Chen's service record while she stood at attention, his weathered features revealing nothing about his intentions or knowledge of recent squadron conflicts. The commander's reputation for fairness was balanced by his absolute intolerance for anything that threatened unit cohesion or mission effectiveness. The colonel's first question caught Chen off guard with its personal nature and obvious familiarity with Patterson's history. "Captain, how well did you know Marcus Patterson?" His reputation in this community was exceptional, and his loss represented significant blow to our combat capability. Chen recognized opportunity to gauge Adams's knowledge about Patterson's aircraft and modifications. "Sir, I never met Colonel Patterson personally, but I've studied his tactical innovations and learned about his aircraft's unique capabilities. His legacy deserves proper recognition and continuation." Adams nodded with satisfaction at her response, while revealing his personal connection to Patterson's story. Marcus was a close friend and exceptional officer whose contributions to fighter tactics revolutionized our approach to air combat. His death was tragic loss that this command still feels deeply. The commander's revelation about Patterson's classified work carried implications that extended far beyond squadron politics. "Captain, Marcus developed tactical innovations that remain classified above your current clearance level. His aircraft modifications supported combat techniques that proved devastatingly effective against enemy forces." Chen absorbed the information while recognizing that Adams possessed detailed knowledge about Patterson's work and its systematic suppression. The commander's willingness to discuss classified matters suggested he might support efforts to restore Patterson's legacy against squadron leadership's opposition. Adams continued with information that revealed the scope of institutional resistance to Patterson's innovations. Current Air Force leadership prefers standardized equipment and procedures over individual innovation. Marcus represented old-school thinking that modern bureaucracy finds uncomfortable and potentially disruptive. Squadron psychologist Dr. Sarah Kim conducted her mandatory interview with Chun in a sterile office designed to encourage open communication about stress, adaptation, and psychological fitness for flight duties. The session represented standard procedure, but timing suggested coordination with leadership's efforts to find grounds for Chen's removal. Dr. Kim's questions probed for signs of paranoia, persecution complex, or other psychological vulnerabilities that could justify grounding Chun from flight status. "Captain, how are you adapting to squadron culture and the challenges of flying older equipment?" Some pilots find the adjustment stressful. Chen recognized the psychological evaluation as potential trap while answering honestly about her experiences and observations. "Doctor, I'm adapting well to both the aircraft and squadron dynamics. The challenges are significant, but manageable with proper preparation and support." The psychologist's follow-up questions revealed fishing expedition for evidence of mental instability or inappropriate emotional responses. "Have you experienced feelings of persecution or unfair treatment?" Sometimes new pilots develop unrealistic expectations about acceptance and support from established squadron members. Chen's measured responses avoided providing ammunition for psychological grounding while maintaining honesty about her situation. The interview concluded without obvious red flags, but she recognized that Dr. Kim would analyze every word for signs of psychological vulnerability that could support leadership's narrative. That evening, Chun made her final decision to proceed with Morrison's challenge despite escalating intimidation and sabotage attempts. The stakes had grown beyond personal vindication to include Patterson's legacy and the truth about institutional corruption that had buried his innovations. Martinez completed final preparations for the challenge flight with grim determination to prove Patterson's aircraft could outperform the squadron's newest technology. "Captain, they've thrown everything they can at us short of court-martial charges. Time to show them why Ghost chose this bird over all the fancy new toys." The battle lines were drawn for a confrontation that would determine whether truth or deception controlled Thunderbolt Squadron's future, with Chun and Patterson's restored fighter representing everything that current leadership feared and opposed. The morning briefing crackled with tension as Harrison stood before the assembled squadron with parameters for the head-to-head challenge that would settle questions about aircraft capabilities once and for all. Every pilot present understood that this confrontation transcended routine training to become a test of fundamental assumptions about technology, skill, and squadron hierarchy. Harrison's voice carried official authority, while his eyes betrayed concern about the outcome of Morrison's challenge. Today's exercise will consist of unknown combat simulation between Captain Chun in Aircraft 870234 and Captain Morrison in Aircraft 910456. 4 engagement scenarios will test air-to-air combat effectiveness under controlled conditions. Morrison stood beside his F-16V Block 70, the squadron's newest and most advanced fighter, equipped with AESA radar, advanced electronic warfare systems, and the latest avionics that represented cutting-edge military technology. His confidence radiated from every gesture as he reviewed mission parameters with characteristic precision. Chun approached aircraft 870,234 with quiet determination, while squadron members gathered to witness what many expected would be definitive proof of modern technology superiority over restored legacy equipment. The betting among ground crews strongly favored Morrison's advanced fighter over Patterson's modified museum piece. The exercise parameters established by Harrison favored newer technology through scenarios that emphasized radar performance and electronic warfare capabilities where modern systems should demonstrate clear advantages. His selection of engagement profiles suggested confidence that Morrison would prove Chun's previous success was merely luck. Morrison's pre-flight inspection of his F-16V revealed supreme confidence in technological superiority that his aircraft represented. The newest block variant incorporated decades of advancement in avionics, weapons systems, and defensive capabilities that should overwhelm any legacy fighter regardless of modifications. Chun completed her pre-flight checks, while Martinez performed final system verifications that confirmed all of Patterson's modifications were operating at peak efficiency. The aircraft's hidden capabilities remained invisible to casual observation, but sophisticated electronics hummed with readiness for combat that would honor the colonel's memory. The first engagement began at medium range, with both aircraft launching from opposite corners of the training area. Morrison immediately activated his advanced AESA radar and electronic warfare systems, confident that superior technology would provide decisive advantage in target acquisition and tracking. Chun implemented Patterson's energy management techniques, while her aircraft's enhanced ECM systems began their electronic duel with Morrison's advanced sensors. The colonel's modifications proved their worth as 870,234's defensive systems effectively countered the F-16V's technological advantages through sophisticated electronic countermeasures. Morrison's surprise was evident in his radio transmissions as his radar lock dissolved repeatedly despite optimal positioning and textbook tactics. "Phoenix, your ECM signature is way beyond standard F-16 parameters. What systems are you running?" His question revealed growing concern about unexpected defensive capabilities. Chun exploited Patterson's vertical maneuvering techniques to gain energy advantage, while Morrison struggled to maintain radar contact through the electronic interference that his aircraft systems couldn't penetrate. The first engagement concluded with Chun achieving definitive weapons lock from an impossible firing position. Ground controllers monitored the engagement with growing amazement at Chin's aircraft performance that exceeded all expectations for legacy equipment. Major Harrison watched radar displays with obvious dismay as his assumptions about technological superiority crumbled before undeniable evidence. The second engagement tested close-range maneuvering, where Morrison's confidence in superior flight controls and engine performance should have provided decisive advantage. His F-16V's advanced systems were specifically designed to dominate this type of combat through enhanced agility and pilot interface technology. Chin demonstrated Patterson's turning tactics that exploited 870,234's modified flight control systems to achieve sustained turn rates that exceeded Morrison's aircraft despite its newer design. The restored fighter's enhanced capabilities allowed maneuvers that appeared impossible for standard F-16 airframes. Morrison's tactical radio calls grew increasingly frustrated as his technological advantages failed to materialize against Chin's superior energy management and tactical execution. "This is impossible. Your aircraft is outturning a Block 70 F-16V. Something is seriously wrong with performance calculations." Chun maintained professional composure while executing maneuvers that Patterson had perfected through combat experience, using the aircraft's enhanced systems to achieve tactical positions that negated Morrison's technological advantages. The colonel's ghost seemed to guide every control input through familiar patterns. The third engagement emphasized beyond visual range combat, where Morrison's AESA radar and advanced missiles should have provided overwhelming advantage. His F-16V was specifically designed to dominate this type of engagement through superior sensors and weapons integration. Chin's aircraft revealed additional hidden capabilities as its enhanced radar systems proved equal to Morrison's advanced technology while maintaining electronic warfare superiority that prevented effective target lock. Patterson's modifications had created defensive systems that approached stealth fighter capabilities. Morrison's growing desperation became evident as he violated safety protocols in attempts to achieve any advantage over Chin's seemingly inferior aircraft. His aggressive maneuvering pushed flight envelope limits, while Chun maintained tactical discipline that allowed systematic exploitation of his mistakes. Ground Safety Officer Rodriguez monitored both aircraft with increasing concern about Morrison's increasingly dangerous tactics. "Ace, maintain safe separation and follow engagement rules. Your current maneuvering is approaching operational limits." His warning carried regulatory authority that Morrison was legally required to obey. The final engagement tested integrated combat scenarios where all systems worked together to achieve tactical superiority. Morrison's F-16V represented the pinnacle of modern fighter design, incorporating every advancement that military technology could provide within existing airframe limitations. Chin demonstrated the full scope of Patterson's tactical innovations while 870,234's restored systems performed flawlessly under combat stress. The aircraft responded to her inputs with mechanical sympathy that suggested perfect integration between pilot, machine, and tactical philosophy. Morrison's final attempt to salvage victory through superior technology failed as Chun achieved decisive weapons lock from a firing position that his advanced systems couldn't counter. The engagement concluded with undeniable evidence that skill and innovation could overcome technological advantage. Landing procedures required careful coordination as Morrison struggled with damaged pride, while Chun maintained professional courtesy despite overwhelming victory. The entire squadron witnessed both aircraft touching down with Morrison's defeat clearly established through observable performance differences. Post-flight data analysis confirmed Chin's superiority in 7 of 8 performance metrics, with only raw speed favoring Morrison's newer engines. Every other measurement demonstrated 870,234's enhanced capabilities that proved Patterson's modifications had created something truly exceptional. Harrison faced undeniable evidence that contradicted every assumption about aircraft assignments and technological superiority. His squadron's newest fighter had been systematically defeated by equipment he had dismissed as obsolete, forcing fundamental reassessment of his leadership decisions. Morrison approached Chen privately after shutdown procedures with expression mixing professional respect and personal humiliation. "Captain, I don't understand how that aircraft achieved what I witnessed today, but you've earned my respect through superior flying and tactics." The squadron's dynamics shifted fundamentally as pilots processed the implications of Chen's decisive victory over their most advanced aircraft flown by their most skilled pilot. Questions arose about leadership competence and the true capabilities of equipment they had dismissed as inferior. Chen's triumph was complete, but she recognized that proving Patterson's aircraft superiority was only the beginning of a larger battle against institutional resistance that would fight desperately to suppress evidence of their fundamental errors in judgment and resource allocation. Brigadier General Patricia Hayes arrived at Nellis without advance notice, her staff car pulling directly to the squadron headquarters as morning operations commenced. The wing commander's unscheduled inspection sent immediate ripples of concern through squadron leadership, who scrambled to present their best face to higher authority. Hayes emerged from her vehicle with the bearing of an officer who had commanded combat operations and tolerated no deception from subordinates. Her reputation for thorough investigation and decisive action preceded her arrival, creating anxiety among those who preferred operating without senior oversight. Harrison intercepted the general at squadron entrance with forced confidence that barely concealed his nervousness about unexpected high-level scrutiny. "General Hayes, welcome to Thunderbolt Squadron. We weren't expecting inspection today, but we're always ready to demonstrate our capabilities and readiness." The general's response carried professional courtesy edged with skepticism about Harrison's obvious discomfort. "Major, this isn't a scheduled inspection. I'm here to investigate reports about unusual aircraft performance and questionable maintenance practices that have reached wing level through unofficial channels." Hayes immediately requested private interview with Chief Martinez, recognizing that maintenance personnel often possess the most accurate information about actual squadron operations. Her experience taught her that ground crews understood aircraft capabilities better than pilots who flew them. Martinez entered the interview room with respectful military bearing, while carrying comprehensive documentation about aircraft 870,234's maintenance history and recent restoration work. His prepared materials suggested forewarning about the investigation and careful preparation of evidence. The maintenance chief's testimony revealed systematic underfunding and deliberate sabotage that extended far beyond normal resource limitations. "General, aircraft 870234 has been systematically denied proper maintenance funding for 18 months despite repeated requests through appropriate channels." Hayes examined Martinez's documentation with growing concern about institutional misconduct that violated basic maintenance protocols. The evidence suggested deliberate negligence rather than random bureaucratic failure, indicating possible discrimination and resource misallocation. Martinez continued his testimony with specific examples of command interference in maintenance operations. "General, Major Harrison personally ordered disconnection of advanced systems and use of incorrect specifications to create performance problems that supported his narrative about aircraft inferiority." The general's questioning intensified as she recognized patterns of misconduct that extended beyond simple poor judgment. "Chief, you're alleging deliberate sabotage of military equipment and systematic discrimination. These are serious charges that require substantial evidence." Hayes summoned Chun for private testimony about her experiences with squadron leadership and aircraft assignment policies. The captain's composed demeanor and detailed responses impressed the general with their professionalism and credibility. Chen's testimony revealed the full scope of institutional bias and systematic suppression of Patterson's legacy. "General, my assignment to aircraft 870234 was specifically intended as humiliation rather than opportunity. Squadron leadership deliberately buried the aircraft's exceptional combat history and capabilities. The general's investigation expanded to include review of maintenance budgets and resource allocation that revealed discriminatory patterns affecting multiple personnel beyond Chen's situation. Hayes discovered systematic favoritism that violated Air Force equal opportunity policies. Dr. Kim's psychological evaluation records were subpoenaed as Hayes sought evidence of squadron culture that might support hostile environment claims. The psychologist's notes revealed attempts to find grounds for Chen's removal that lacked professional justification. Hayes interviewed Patterson's former squadron mates who provided detailed testimony about the colonel's innovations and their systematic suppression after his death. These veterans revealed institutional resistance to change that went far beyond normal bureaucratic inertia. The investigation uncovered classified documentation proving Patterson's aircraft had achieved performance levels that embarrassed newer technology through superior tactics and modifications. Hayes realized the implications extended to Air Force-wide procurement and doctrine decisions. Harrison attempted damage control through private meeting with Hayes, claiming Chen's success validated squadron training methods rather than exposing institutional failure. His explanations failed to address documented evidence of deliberate sabotage and discrimination. The Major's defense crumbled as Hayes presented evidence of his personal involvement in suppressing Patterson's legacy and creating hostile environment for Chen. Major, your actions have violated multiple regulations and potentially compromised military readiness through resource misallocation. Morrison faced questioning about safety violations during the challenge flight and his role in attempted sabotage of Chen's aircraft. His testimony revealed squadron culture that prioritized ego protection over professional development and military effectiveness. Anonymous complaints surfaced from other squadron members about Harrison's leadership style and favoritism that affected performance evaluations and advancement opportunities. The investigation revealed systemic problems that extended far beyond Chen's individual case. Hayes discovered that Williams and Rodriguez had participated in coordinated harassment designed to force Chen's departure from squadron. Their actions violated multiple regulations regarding equal opportunity and professional conduct. The general's investigation revealed financial irregularities in maintenance funding that suggested possible fraud in addition to discrimination. Hayes realized the scope of misconduct required formal disciplinary action and policy reforms. Sergeant Kim provided crucial testimony about deliberate historical suppression that prevented current pilots from learning from Patterson's innovations. His evidence demonstrated institutional loss of tactical knowledge that compromised combat effectiveness. Hayes examined Patterson's classified flight records and discovered performance data that revolutionized her understanding of fighter capabilities when properly modified and employed. The colonel's work represented tactical breakthrough that current leadership had buried through ignorance and ego. The investigation revealed that squadron leadership had systematically wasted military resources through deliberate inefficiency designed to support predetermined conclusions about equipment and personnel. Hayes recognized this as potential criminal conduct requiring formal charges. Chen's restoration of Patterson's aircraft proved that individual initiative could overcome institutional resistance. But Hayes realized the broader implications for Air Force culture that discouraged innovation and individual excellence in favor of standardized mediocrity. The general's preliminary findings supported formal disciplinary hearing that would address charges ranging from discrimination and resource misallocation to potential fraud and military misconduct. The scope of violations required comprehensive response. Hayes scheduled formal hearing for the following week while implementing immediate temporary measures to protect Chen from retaliation and preserve evidence of systematic misconduct. The investigation had uncovered corruption that threatened squadron effectiveness and military readiness. The institutional response had begun in earnest as higher command recognized that Thunderbolt Squadron's problems reflected broader cultural issues that required decisive action and comprehensive reform to restore proper military standards and values. General Hayes descended into the secure vault beneath Wing headquarters with two classified materials specialists, approaching the sealed section containing Patterson's complete flight records and tactical development files. The heavy steel door bore warning signs about top-secret compartmentalized information that required special clearance for access. The vault's climate-controlled interior housed decades of classified fighter development programs, but Patterson's section occupied premium space that indicated exceptional significance. Hayes recognized that opening these files would reveal information that current Air Force leadership had deliberately buried for institutional convenience. Patterson's personal flight logs filled 3 secure cabinets with detailed documentation of tactical innovations that had revolutionized air combat during his deployments. Each entry contained handwritten analysis of engagement parameters, enemy capabilities, and aircraft modifications that enhanced mission effectiveness. The first revelation struck Hayes immediately as she examined mission success rates that exceeded every other pilot in Squadron history. Patterson's 73 combat missions using aircraft 870234 had achieved 100% mission completion with 0 aircraft losses, a record that should have earned legendary status. Documentation revealed that Patterson's aircraft modifications had created performance capabilities that approached next-generation fighter characteristics while maintaining F-16 reliability and maintainability. His engineering background enabled innovations that military bureaucracy couldn't approve through normal procurement channels. Hayes discovered technical specifications proving that 870,234's enhanced systems provided tactical advantages that newer aircraft couldn't match despite superior individual components. Patterson's integrated approach had created synergistic effects that transformed basic F-16 capabilities into something approaching stealth fighter performance. The Colonel's final combat report contained recommendations for preserving and studying his aircraft as a testbed for future tactical development. Patterson had specifically warned against allowing bureaucratic resistance to suppress innovations that could save pilot lives and enhance mission effectiveness. Squadron leadership's knowledge of these capabilities was documented in classified briefings that Harrison had attended but never disclosed to current squadron members. Hayes realized that deliberate suppression of Patterson's legacy represented conscious decision to prioritize institutional convenience over military effectiveness. Hayes examined photographic evidence of battle damage that 870234 had sustained and survived during combat operations. Surface-to-air missile fragments, cannon fire impacts, and bird strike damage told stories of survivability that exceeded manufacturer specifications through Patterson's modifications. The Colonel's personal notes described specific tactical approaches that exploited enemy weaknesses through superior situational awareness and electronic warfare capabilities. His insights into aerial combat had evolved beyond traditional fighter doctrine to create revolutionary methods that proved devastatingly effective. Technical analysis confirmed that Patterson's modifications represented breakthrough innovations in fighter aircraft capability that should have been studied and implemented fleet-wide. Instead, institutional resistance had buried these advances to protect existing procurement programs and established doctrine. Hayes discovered correspondence between Patterson and senior Air Force leadership about resistance to his tactical innovations. The Colonel had faced systematic opposition from bureaucrats who feared that his success would expose their own incompetence and waste. Chen was summoned to provide detailed testimony about her discovery and restoration of Patterson's aircraft systems. Her technical knowledge and careful documentation impressed Hayes with her thoroughness and professional competence that contradicted squadron leadership's dismissive assessments. The captain's testimony revealed the full scope of deliberate sabotage that had been designed to prevent discovery of the aircraft's true capabilities. Chen's systematic approach to restoration demonstrated exactly the kind of individual initiative that military organizations should encourage rather than suppress. Hayes examined maintenance records, proving that squadron leadership had known about Patterson's modifications but deliberately ordered their disconnection after his death. The decision represented conscious choice to waste military resources rather than acknowledge superior performance. Rodriguez provided corroborating testimony about command pressure to suppress the aircraft's capabilities through improper maintenance and resource denial. His evidence demonstrated systematic conspiracy to maintain institutional narrative regardless of facts or military effectiveness. The investigation revealed that Patterson's tactical manual had been classified and buried to prevent other pilots from learning his innovations. Hayes recognized this as institutional failure that compromised combat readiness by suppressing proven effective techniques. Technical evaluation of Chen's restoration work proved that Patterson's modifications remained viable and effective despite years of deliberate neglect. The aircraft's performance during the challenge flight had validated every aspect of the colonel's tactical and technical innovations. Hayes discovered financial documentation proving that Harrison had deliberately diverted maintenance funding from $870,234 to newer aircraft that didn't require the specialized support. This resource misallocation violated multiple regulations about equal treatment and resource stewardship. The general's analysis revealed that Patterson's approach to fighter employment represented paradigm shift that threatened established procurement priorities and training doctrine. His success proved that skill and innovation could overcome technological disadvantage, undermining arguments for expensive new aircraft programs. Classified combat footage showed Patterson's aircraft performing maneuvers and achieving tactical results that contradicted everything current doctrine taught about F-16 limitations. His methods had redefined what was possible with properly modified and employed legacy equipment. Hayes realized that Chen's assignment to Patterson's aircraft had been specifically designed as humiliation that would validate preconceptions about lowered standards and inferior capabilities. The squadron's shock at her success proved they had never expected the aircraft to perform as designed. The investigation uncovered systematic pattern of discrimination affecting multiple female pilots who had been assigned inferior equipment and denied equal opportunities for advancement. Chen's case represented broader institutional failure that violated Air Force core values. Patterson's legacy had been deliberately erased to protect egos and careers of leaders who couldn't accept that individual excellence could overcome institutional mediocrity. Hayes understood that restoring his memory required acknowledging widespread leadership failure. The general's findings supported criminal charges against Harrison for fraud, discrimination, and deliberate waste of military resources. The scope of misconduct extended beyond poor judgment to conscious violation of regulations and military law. Hayes discovered that other air forces had attempted to recruit Patterson specifically because of his tactical innovations, but Air Force bureaucracy had prevented proper recognition of his contributions. The institutional loss represented strategic failure that compromised national security. Evidence proved that Patterson's aircraft could outperform newer fighters in multiple mission profiles when properly maintained and employed. His modifications had created capability that exceeded official specifications through integrated approach that optimized every system. The truth about aircraft 870,234 revolutionized Hayes's understanding of fighter capabilities and institutional resistance to innovation. Patterson's work represented breakthrough that had been suppressed for convenience rather than military necessity, revealing corruption that demanded comprehensive response. General Hayes convened the formal disciplinary hearing in Wing Headquarters' main conference room, with base command staff arranged around polished mahogany tables. The assembled officers represented final authority on matters affecting squadron leadership and military justice, their presence emphasizing the gravity of charges being addressed. Harrison entered the hearing room with military bearing that barely concealed deep anxiety about his professional future. The major's confident leadership persona had crumbled under investigative scrutiny that revealed systematic misconduct spanning months of deliberate discrimination and resource misallocation. Hayes opened proceedings with formal reading of charges that included resource mismanagement, discriminatory practices, and deliberate suppression of military capabilities. Each specification carried potential career-ending consequences that reflected the serious nature of institutional corruption uncovered during investigation. The general's presentation of evidence began with documented proof of Harrison's personal involvement in denying proper maintenance funding to aircraft 870234. Financial records showed deliberate resource diversion that violated regulations about equal treatment and stewardship of military assets. Morrison faced formal reprimand for safety violations during the challenge flight and participation in coordinated harassment designed to force Chen's departure. His temporary suspension from flight status reflected serious concern about judgment and adherence to professional standards. Chen provided detailed testimony about systematic harassment and deliberate equipment sabotage that created hostile work environment violating Air Force equal opportunity policies. Her composed presentation impressed the hearing panel with its thoroughness and professional credibility. The captain's evidence included documentation of anonymous threats, attempted aircraft tampering, and coordinated efforts to undermine her performance through improper maintenance and resource denial. Hayes recognized these actions as serious violations requiring formal disciplinary response. Rodriguez received official commendation for maintaining aircraft integrity despite systematic pressure and resource constraints that would have compromised safety under less competent maintenance leadership. His professional dedication had prevented potential catastrophic failures. Hayes announced immediate policy changes requiring equal resource allocation and transparent maintenance funding that would prevent future discrimination disguised as operational necessity. These reforms addressed systemic problems that extended beyond individual misconduct. Chen was officially assigned as Aircraft 870,234's permanent pilot, with full restoration, funding, and authority to maintain Patterson's modifications. Her vindication was complete as the aircraft became showcase example for innovation and individual excellence. The squadron received mandatory retraining on equal opportunity policies and resource management that emphasized professional conduct and institutional accountability. These programs addressed cultural problems that had enabled systematic discrimination and misconduct. Harrison was formally removed as squadron leader and reassigned to administrative duties pending completion of disciplinary proceedings. His replacement by Lieutenant Colonel Davis represented fundamental change in leadership philosophy and operational approach. Davis arrived from another wing with reputation for fairness and innovation that contrasted sharply with Harrison's authoritarian style. His first announcement emphasized merit-based advancement and equal opportunity for all squadron members regardless of background or assignment. Chen received promotion to flight leader position with authority over aircraft assignments and training protocols. Her new responsibility included ensuring that Patterson's tactical innovations were properly studied and implemented throughout the squadron. Base-wide announcement recognized Chen's achievement in restoring Patterson's legacy while honoring his memory through continued excellence in tactical innovation. The formal recognition validated her struggle against institutional resistance and systematic suppression. Hayes addressed the assembled squadron with clear message about accountability and institutional change. These proceedings demonstrate that individual excellence will be recognized and supported, while discrimination and misconduct will face severe consequences regardless of rank or position. The general's reforms extended beyond Thunderbolt Squadron to address Air Force-wide problems with innovation resistance and resource allocation. Chen's case became catalyst for broader policy changes that emphasized merit over politics in personnel decisions. Williams publicly apologized for his participation in harassment and requested assignment to different squadron where he could rebuild his professional reputation. His departure removed source of institutional resistance while demonstrating consequences of discriminatory behavior. Rodriguez was promoted to senior maintenance chief with expanded authority and budget allocation that reflected proper recognition of his professional competence and dedication. His advancement validated technical expertise over political considerations. Hayes established Chin's case as precedent for addressing discrimination and ensuring equal opportunity throughout the wing. The investigation's findings were distributed Air Force-wide as example of proper institutional response to systematic misconduct. Morrison approached Chen privately to request training under her advanced methods, recognizing that her success demonstrated superior tactical knowledge worth learning. His professional humility marked fundamental change in squadron dynamics and culture. Aircraft 870234 was officially designated as heritage aircraft with preserved status that would maintain Patterson's modifications for future study and training. The designation ensured that his innovations would benefit future generations of pilots. Chen developed new tactics manual incorporating Patterson's innovations with modern applications that would revolutionize fighter employment throughout the Air Force. Her work represented bridge between proven combat experience and contemporary operational requirements. Squadron performance metrics improved dramatically under new leadership that emphasized individual excellence and innovation over conformity and political correctness. The cultural transformation validated Hayes's comprehensive approach to institutional reform. Base Commander used Thunderbolt Squadron as model for Air Force-wide policy reforms that address discrimination, resource allocation, and recognition of individual achievement. Chen's vindication became catalyst for broader institutional change. Chen received invitation to attend test pilot school based on demonstrated innovation and technical competence that exceeded normal qualification requirements. Her selection represented ultimate validation of capabilities that squadron leadership had systematically denied. The hearing concluded with formal documentation of all disciplinary actions and policy changes that would prevent future occurrence of systematic discrimination and resource misallocation. Hayes's comprehensive response addressed both individual misconduct and institutional failures. Harrison's military career effectively ended as investigation results were forwarded to higher headquarters for potential criminal prosecution. His downfall served as warning about consequences of discriminatory leadership and institutional corruption. The transformation of Thunderbolt Squadron was complete as new leadership implemented policies that recognized merit over politics, while honoring Patterson's legacy through continued tactical innovation. Chen's struggle had achieved victory that extended far beyond personal vindication to institutional reform. Chen assumed her flight leader duties with 3 pilots under her command in the renovated squadron ready room that reflected new leadership priorities emphasizing excellence and innovation over politics and favoritism. Lieutenant Colonel Davis had transformed the operational environment through policies that rewarded merit and individual achievement. Her first meeting as flight leader established new standards for aircraft maintenance and performance evaluation that drew directly from Patterson's tactical manual and restoration experience. Chen emphasized that every aircraft would receive equal resource allocation regardless of age or assignment history. Rodriguez stepped into his expanded role as senior maintenance chief with authority and budget allocation that enabled proper care for all squadron aircraft. His promotion had validated technical expertise while providing resources necessary to maintain Patterson's innovations alongside routine squadron operations. Chen implemented Patterson's advanced training techniques squadron-wide through structured program that taught energy management, electronic warfare employment, and tactical maneuvering that had made the colonel legendary among combat pilots. Her instruction methods honored his memory while advancing current capabilities. Captain Sarah Martinez transferred to Thunderbolt Squadron specifically because of improved environment and equal opportunities that Chen's vindication had created. Her arrival marked the beginning of cultural transformation that would attract top female pilots throughout the Air Force. The new pilot integration process reflected Chen's commitment to fair treatment and professional development that contrasted sharply with previous discriminatory practices. Martinez received assignment to well-maintained F-16C with full technical support and advanced training opportunities. Morrison publicly requested training under Chin's advanced methods during Squadron meeting that demonstrated his professional growth and recognition of superior tactical knowledge. His willingness to learn from former adversary marked fundamental shift in Squadron culture and interpersonal dynamics. Chin's instruction revealed Patterson's insights about vertical maneuvering and energy conservation that most pilots never discovered during standard training. Morrison absorbed these techniques with enthusiasm that transformed his understanding of aerial combat and aircraft employment. Aircraft A-70234 became a showcase example for restoration and modification programs that proved individual innovation could enhance military capabilities beyond standard specifications. Technical teams from throughout the Air Force visited to study Patterson's modifications and their tactical applications. Chin developed a comprehensive tactics manual that incorporated Patterson's combat experience with contemporary operational requirements and modern threat environments. Her work represented an evolutionary bridge between proven techniques and current tactical challenges. Squadron performance metrics improved dramatically under new leadership approach that emphasized individual excellence while maintaining team cohesion and mission effectiveness. Monthly evaluations showed consistent improvement across all measured categories, including safety, readiness, and pilot proficiency. Base Commander Colonel Adams used Thunderbolt Squadron as demonstration model for visiting dignitaries and Air Force leadership who sought examples of successful organizational transformation. Chin's story became case study in overcoming institutional resistance through individual excellence. The squadron's reputation spread throughout fighter community as example of innovation and equal opportunity that attracted top pilots seeking assignment to units that valued capability over politics. Transfer requests increased significantly as word spread about cultural transformation. Chin received invitation to present her restoration experience and tactical innovations at Fighter Weapons School, where her methods would influence next generation of tactical instructors. The assignment represented ultimate professional validation and opportunity to spread Patterson's legacy. Captain Williams returned to Squadron after completing professional development program focused on equal opportunity and team leadership. His genuine transformation and public commitment to new standards demonstrated possibility of personal growth through institutional accountability. Rodriguez developed maintenance protocols based on Patterson's modifications that were adopted throughout fighter community for improving legacy aircraft performance. His technical innovations proved that individual excellence could influence Air Force-wide procedures and standards. The Heritage Aircraft designation for 87024 ensured that Patterson's modifications would be preserved and studied for future tactical development programs. Chin's successful restoration had proven that innovation deserved recognition rather than suppression. Female pilots throughout the Air Force began requesting assignment to Thunderbolt Squadron as word spread about equal treatment and advancement opportunities. Chin's success had created pipeline for talented officers who previously faced discrimination elsewhere. Morrison's professional development under Chin's instruction exemplified squadron transformation from competitive hostility to collaborative excellence. His progress validated new leadership philosophy that emphasized learning over ego protection. Squadron readiness ratings reached highest levels in wing history as improved morale and equal resource allocation enhanced overall performance. The cultural transformation had produced measurable improvements in military effectiveness and mission capability. Chin's tactical innovations were incorporated into Air Force-wide training curriculum after formal evaluation proved their effectiveness in various operational scenarios. Patterson's legacy expanded beyond single squadron to influence entire fighter community. Lieutenant Martinez quickly adapted to squadron culture that emphasized technical competence and professional growth over traditional hierarchies. Her rapid integration demonstrated effectiveness of Chin's leadership approach and commitment to equal opportunity. The squadron developed reputation as premier assignment for pilots seeking advanced tactical training and career development opportunities. Chen's leadership had transformed unit culture from exclusionary to inclusive while maintaining demanding professional standards. Rodriguez's maintenance innovations received formal recognition through Air Force technical publication that documented improved procedures for legacy aircraft restoration. His work provided practical guidance for maintaining older fighters at peak performance levels. Chen prepared for test pilot school assignment while ensuring smooth transition of squadron responsibilities to carefully selected replacement who shared commitment to Patterson's legacy and institutional reform. Her departure represented career advancement earned through demonstrated excellence. The transformation of Thunderbolt Squadron was complete as new culture of innovation and equal opportunity became permanently established through policies and personnel changes that would outlast individual assignments. Chen's struggle had achieved lasting institutional change that honored Patterson's memory while advancing Air Force capabilities. 6 months after Chen's promotion to flight leader, Thunderbolt Squadron achieved the highest rating in Air Combat Command during comprehensive evaluation that tested every aspect of fighter operations from maintenance excellence to tactical innovation. The transformation from dysfunctional unit to premier fighter squadron validated every reform that had followed Chen's vindication. Chen stood before her pilots in the ready room that now displayed photographs honoring Patterson's legacy alongside current achievement awards that reflected the squadron's renewed excellence. Her leadership had created an environment where individual innovation flourished within framework of team cohesion and military professionalism. The Red Flag exercise at Nellis provided ultimate test of squadron capabilities as Thunderbolt competed against elite units from throughout the world in realistic combat scenarios. Chun led the formation with aircraft 870234, now restored to full heritage status while maintaining all of Patterson's tactical modifications. Rodriguez coordinated maintenance operations that supported the most demanding training exercise in military aviation while ensuring every aircraft performed at peak capability. His promotion to senior maintenance chief had provided authority necessary to implement Patterson's maintenance philosophy throughout squadron operations. Chen's tactical employment of heritage aircraft during Red Flag demonstrated capabilities that impressed international observers and validated Patterson's innovations through measurable combat effectiveness. The aircraft achieved mission success rates that exceeded newer fighters through superior tactics and enhanced systems. Morrison flew as Chen's wingman during complex air-to-air engagements that showcased the tactical partnership their professional relationship had become. His development under her instruction exemplified squadron transformation from competitive hostility to collaborative excellence. The final Red Flag mission required deep penetration strike against heavily defended target that tested every aspect of fighter employment from route planning through weapons delivery. Chun led four-ship formation through sophisticated threat environment using Patterson's electronic warfare techniques. Aircraft 870234 demonstrated exceptional survivability as its enhanced defensive systems defeated multiple surface-to-air missile engagements while maintaining formation integrity throughout the mission profile. Patterson's modifications proved their combat value through measurable performance under realistic threat conditions. Squadron performance during Red Flag achieved highest mission success rate in exercise history while maintaining zero aircraft losses through combination of superior tactics, enhanced systems, and exemplary pilot training. The achievement validated comprehensive transformation that had followed institutional reform. Patterson's family attended formal ceremony at Nellis, where aircraft 870234 was dedicated as permanent squadron memorial honoring his tactical innovations and combat service. Chin spoke eloquently about his legacy while promising continued excellence in his memory. The memorial dedication included unveiling of heritage display that documented Patterson's tactical development and combat achievements alongside Chen's restoration of his aircraft and methods. The exhibition would educate future generations about innovation and individual excellence. Chun addressed Air Force Academy cadets about overcoming institutional bias while recognizing hidden potential in people and equipment that others dismiss as inferior. Her presentation emphasized that capability often exists where prejudice prevents proper recognition and development. Multiple aircraft restoration programs throughout the Air Force adopted protocols based on Chen's successful recovery of Patterson's innovations. Her methods proved that legacy equipment could achieve performance levels that justified continued investment rather than premature replacement. Harrison's dismissal had triggered Air Force-wide review of squadron leadership selection that emphasized merit and innovation over political connections. Chen's case became catalyst for broader reforms that improved leader development throughout the service. Rodriguez developed maintenance protocols that became standard throughout fighter community for optimizing legacy aircraft performance. His technical innovations proved that individual excellence could influence Air Force-wide procedures while honoring Patterson's engineering legacy. Chun accepted assignment to United States Air Force Test Pilot School, where aircraft 870,234 would accompany her for advanced tactical development programs. The partnership between pilot and aircraft would continue advancing Patterson's work through next generation of innovations. New pilots arriving at Thunderbolt Squadron discovered culture of excellence and equal opportunity that attracted top talent throughout the Air Force. Chen's transformation had created lasting institutional change that would benefit future generations of fighter pilots. The squadron's reputation as premier training environment drew female pilots, specifically seeking assignment where capabilities would be recognized rather than suppressed. Chen's success had opened doors that institutional bias had previously kept closed. Martinez assumed Chen's flight leader position with commitment to continuing tactical innovation and equal opportunity that had transformed squadron culture. Her promotion represented generational change that would maintain reforms through future leadership transitions. Chun conducted final flight in aircraft 870-234 over Nevada desert, where Patterson had developed his tactical innovations decades earlier. The commemorative mission honored his memory while celebrating victory over institutional resistance that had suppressed his legacy. Test pilot school assignment represented ultimate professional validation for Chun, while providing opportunity to continue Patterson's work through formal research and development programs. Her selection proved that excellence would be recognized despite initial discrimination and systematic opposition. The final squadron meeting under Chen's leadership emphasized continued commitment to Patterson's memory and tactical innovations that had transformed unit culture. Her farewell address challenged pilots to maintain standards that honored both individual achievement and team excellence. Rodriguez received additional commendation for maintaining aircraft 870-234 throughout Chen's tenure, while preserving Patterson's modifications for future study. His technical expertise had enabled tactical innovations that would influence fighter development for decades. Chen's departure from Thunderbolt Squadron marked completion of transformation that had begun with discrimination and systematic suppression, but concluded with vindication and institutional reform. Her legacy would inspire future generations facing similar challenges. Aircraft 870-234 accompanied Chun to test pilot school, where Patterson's innovations would influence next-generation tactical development through formal research programs that honored his memory while advancing current capabilities. The story concluded with Chun training new test pilots to recognize capability where others see limitation, ensuring that Patterson's legacy of innovation and excellence would continue inspiring individual achievement within institutional framework that now supported rather than suppressed exceptional performance. Years later, pilots throughout the Air Force would remember how one captain's determination to honor a fallen hero's memory had transformed not just a single squadron, but institutional culture that now celebrated innovation over conformity, merit over politics, and individual excellence over systematic mediocrity.